So, why are you in this world? Why were you born? Such an interesting question, but a question nonetheless that needs to be answered by every single individual. I had a group and I had a friend, now he's since relocated, who at times when he was frustrated, he would basically give up on life and use expressions like, he doesn't know why he was created, he doesn't know why he's here, he doesn't feel like he's fulfilling any particular objective. And this is largely because of his background. He was unfortunately, his mom was raped, and apparently that's how his pregnancy came about. But and even as unfortunate as that circumstance is, he still has a mandate to fulfill in this world. And if you're listening to me from wherever, I just want to say to you that it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter how you were born. It doesn't matter the circumstances that led to your birth. The truth is that you are here with a divine mandate. And it is very important that you find what that mandate is. And more importantly, that you fulfill that mandate. Very important. Luke chapter 4, 18 to 19. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free. Verse 19. To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Jesus knew exactly what his mandates were. From day one, he knew exactly what he had to do. He knew why he was here. He knew he wasn't a mistake. And regardless of the circumstances that led to his birth, regardless of all the challenges that he witnessed while growing up, one thing was clear. His mandate was unambiguous. There was no question about it. And he set every day to fulfill that mandate. So knowing what your mandate is ensures that you're focused. Knowing your mandate keeps you in line, even when for whatever reason you to skid off your mandate, it positions you or repositions you. So it's very important that from day one that you fully understand what your mandate is, or as we say, what your divine mandate is. And how do you define a mandate? A mandate can be easily defined as an official order. It's an instruction or a command or a commission. And if you simply understand that definition, then it then begs the question, what is the command upon which I am here? Now, divine mandate is therefore God's instruction or God's order concerning your existence. It is the reason for our existence, what I choose to call your ultimate why. What is your ultimate why? Have you sat down to ask that question? What is my ultimate why? Why am I here? Why did God choose me if there were babies on the shelves of heaven or wherever babies come from? Why was I selected off the shelf? This is a question that every man and every woman, especially those that have come of age, that you start asking on a day-to-day basis, because it forms the way that we live our lives. It directs the way we live our life. It helps us to recover from mistakes. Your divine mandate. So every individual has a unique mandate. We all have a unique mandate. And there are blessings that can only be activated when you start fulfilling your divine mandate. Now, we might be successful in doing other things in life that is outside of our mandate, true, but there are specific blessings that will only be activated, that will only come to play soon as you start fulfilling what your divine mandate is. I'll give you an example. You only find peace and fulfillment when you start fulfilling these divine mandates. Some of us are fortunate that we have mentors or teachers, or we found just this knowledge from somewhere that helps direct us to our divine mandate. And soon as you start fulfilling that mandate, you find this exceptional peace, exceptional satisfaction. Unfortunately, you find that many of us live a life of comparison. You keep comparing yourself to the next person, and we set certain standards that we have to meet. It is the reason why you find two people doing the same things. One gets blessed for doing that same thing, and the other doesn't find that same amount of blessing or fulfillment. And that is because the mandate that you've been pursuing was never yours in the first place. Hence, it is important that you find out what your divine mandate is and stick to it. You stick to it. Now, to buttress this statement that I've just made, you find in the book of Luke, chapter 2, from verse 41 to all the way to verse 52. Christ had been born before this verse. He had been born like, we know the birth of Christ, but nobody really knew about Christ. One day, while with his family, I'm sure you know the story, he had been missing for a few days and eventually put a search team together and they found him. They found him in the synagogue. They found him engaging with teachers, with pastors, with senior pastors, with bishops. They actually found Jesus Christ fulfilling his mandate. And from that point, we all started hearing about Jesus Christ. If it was in today's world, we would say from that point he started to trend. Some of you are not trending because you're not fulfilling your mandate. And I'm not saying trending is it's what we should all aim for. But what I actually mean is you're not fulfilling your mandate. Hence, you're not where you ought to be. Christ had started fulfilling his mandate, and the world started hearing about him. Another gentleman that you would, I'm sure you've heard of, is the man called Elijah. Elijah, in the book of First Kings, from verse 17. Before then, we don't know who Elijah was. He could have been a baker, he could have been a teacher, he could have been a farmer. Elijah could have been anything before then. But soon as Elijah ignited his divine mandate, the reason why he was sent to us in the first place, we started hearing about Elijah. He became relevant. So it is possible that many of us are not relevant. Though successful, we could be successful, but not relevant, not adding any particular value, because we're simply not fulfilling our divine mandate. That could be the reason. So a person who's not fulfilling their divine mandate is like a minister without a portfolio. Minister without portfolio is largely irrelevant. There are so many irrelevant men and women walking the streets of life on a day-to-day basis, largely because they haven't taken time to ask this question. And not just asking the question, but taking time to hear what the response is. And not just hearing the response, but also working every day to fulfill that divine mandate. Not fulfilling your divine mandate amounts to what I call spiritual disorder, spiritual chaos. And that is because your mandate extends beyond you, your mandate affects other people. It means if you're not fulfilling your divine mandate, it's not just you that it affects as an individual, but it affects the families, it affects the businesses, it affects the communities, that affects even the nations that you were supposed to affect or impact one way or the other. Not fulfilling your divine mandate, not fulfilling your divine mandate creates this gap, creates this hole that remains to be filled. So you're not just the only one losing out, but a greater community of humanity, of mankind, of people lose out simply because you're not fulfilling your divine mandate. A lot of us are fulfilling what I call popular mandate. A lot of us, we are fulfilling popular mandate. Yes, you can sing. You have the voice of an angel. And because music is a very profitable career, you become a musician and you just follow that path. Yes, IT, the world has gone IT, and you know your way around a computer. And tomorrow you become an IT technician. Makes no sense. Yes, there's a business that everybody's running into and it's profitable and you feel you've got the skill set, you have the understanding of that business, and tomorrow, boom, you become an entrepreneur, a businessman. You join that crowd of people chasing that same business. The question is that part of your mandate? Is that part of your divine mandate? Did you sit and ask the fundamental questions, the one plus one that leads to two? Is this what I'm here to do? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this my mandate? So have you truly identified your mandate? And if the answer is yes, as we speak and as you listen to me, are you fulfilling your divine mandate? To fulfill your divine mandate, I've listed 3 steps that I think would help to fulfill this divine mandate. As I also chase to fulfill mine, I just want to share 3 steps that I've been able to highlight and see if it helps somebody. The first step to fulfilling divine mandate is a very important one. In fact, it is the most important of all the steps. It is to inquire from God. Living a life of inquiry. You're always asking. You're asking. I mean, who best to ask aside the person that sent you on the errand in the first place, apart from the person that gave the command? Asking, inquiry, living a life of inquiry, regardless of your skill set, regardless of what you know, regardless of your network. For every move that you make, you inquire. The book of 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 1. 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 1. In that verse, we see David. Now, for those who know David, David was a very skilled dude. He was skilled from small, very knowledgeable. David grew to become a very resourceful individual, a fighter of note, a warrior, if you might put it that way. He could use weapons. He was a man of war. But we see in that verse, in just one verse, David did something twice. I mean, with all he knew, he could as well have just gone out to fight or engage his enemies. But the Bible records in that one verse, David inquired twice. Twice. Now you may want to just read it and see what I'm saying. He inquired twice. Now, apart from the fact that he inquired twice, it is very important to always know the mind of God before you engage anything. Whether it's something that you truly believe that you understand and you're capable of doing, it is important to first of all know what God's mind is concerning that. Many times our success in a career or a business is how we define or how we know if that was God's plan in the first place. So if we're successful, then it was God's plan. If we failed, then it wasn't God's plan. If the business is profitable and we're excelling, then this must be God's plan. If the business crumbles, then it wasn't God's plan in the first place, which I find completely, wrong, if I may use that word. I mean, in the last 2 years, we've seen churches, for instance, churches that were doing okay in the sense that you had people walk in, people get blessed, and COVID wiped them out completely, and they never came back from COVID. Do you then say that church was not God's plan, or do you say because it was in existence for XYZ number of years that it was God's plan? I don't know. I don't know. So David, in the book of 2 Samuel, if you look at that account, he asked God twice. It is important. This is how I see his questioning. It is important that from time to time you go back and ask. You keep asking. I mean, we lose nothing from asking, because conditions, even while you're fulfilling your divine mandate, conditions around you may change or will change. I'll give you a classic example. Missionaries that were sent to countries, if that was their divine mandate, sent to a country, for instance, like Ukraine. 4 or 5 years ago, everything was okay. Boom. Ukraine breaks into a war with Russia, or Russia, I don't know, they're at war. The conditions have changed, and those conditions will impact the fulfilling of their divine mandate. It becomes very important that we go back and ask. The questions then would be, what do these changes mean for me in fulfilling my mandate? How does it impact my mandate? We ask, we hear, we listen, and we continue. So in asking, what we're actually saying is, are these changes part of the plan? COVID came. I mean, we've seen how COVID has ravished the earth. As you fulfill your divine mandate, it is important to ask the question, is COVID part of the plan? We've seen recessions. We've seen economies get, decimated completely. Are these part of the plan? Only a life of inquiry will give you the answers that you need. And those answers will either keep you on the path, get you to understand which other direction you need to change, but the mandate might still remain the same. It's just the approach to the mandate that could change. But that you don't know if you don't ask. And then you look at that same account in chapter 5 from verse 22 to 24. David was met with a similar challenge. Like I said, David is highly skilled. David is highly resourceful. He could have simply just, taken his whatever guns and arrows and knives and warriors and just no. He didn't do that. He didn't engage that situation. Instead, what did he do? He inquired of the Lord. I encourage you to read that entire book of Second Samuel. He inquired of the Lord. Because it is not his message. Yes, he's invested in it, he's doing it, but he's fulfilling a mandate. And that is what you and I must appreciate, that you are here to fulfill a mandate. If you're not fulfilling that mandate, it should bother you. You should wake up with heaviness in your heart. What should give you peace is when you start fulfilling that mandate. Now, in chapter 5, verse 22 to 24, we see something very unique, that the approach that God used here changed. The approach changed. So the mandate could still be the same, but the approach to the mandate could change. Now, how would David have known? How would he have known if he hadn't asked? How would he have known? I mean, even in countries where there's war, people are still fulfilling their mandate. The approach to fulfilling it has just changed. Secrets have been revealed to them in how to approach these things. Secret that no book can tell you, no institution can teach you, no document, you cannot find it anywhere except you go back to the commander himself and ask those questions. And David knew that. Hence, he was successful. He always went back and inquired of the Lord. So the pursuance of your mandate has to be at the will and the wish of the commander himself. And if you remember what my definition was, a mandate is a command. So the commander can choose how he wants to approach this mandate. When you and I feel like we are facing serious challenges in life and it's affecting us fulfilling our mandate, we go back and we ask those fundamental questions. The God of times and season, that same God, knows the approach that he will use in the coming season and the season after that. As we approach 2023, it's still early. The God of time and season knows that this 2023, there's an approach that he's going to present to you and I that will help us navigate the challenges that 2023 will come with. But we just have to inquire. We have to. My second approach to fulfilling divine mandate would be an approach that you and I, especially if you drive with a navigator, GPS, you'd have heard that lady. There's a lady in that device, whether it's on your phone. It is called rerouting. You reroute. The second way to fulfill divine mandate is to learn to reroute. The book of Second Samuel, still in book of Second Samuel, chapter 2, the book of Second Samuel, chapter 6. Now, it is possible that you and I would have missed our direction one way or the other. That's very possible. It is possible that you and I did not hear right. We misunderstood what we heard. We misinterpreted what we heard. It is possible that we heard right, but for whatever circumstances, for whatever reasons, we missed our direction. All of that is very, very possible. And I would boldly want to say to you that it is okay. But you have a solution, which is to reroute. I mean, if you've used the GPS and you enter an address and you miss the right turn, the GPS recalculates. It finds another route to bring you back to where you're supposed to be. It doesn't just keep taking you on that wrong direction forever. You see the GPS take its time and recalculate. One thing it doesn't do is it will never force you. It will never force you, but it will keep telling you, make a right turn. Uh, I don't know, change here, turn right, turn left. But it finds a way to bring you back to where you ought to be. So you and I must have that ability to reroute soon as we find out that we are not on the right path. Soon as we find out that we've lost direction, that we've missed it, we find a way to reroute. It also happens sometimes that we miss this direction when we maybe listen to pastors, for instance, and this one really happens especially to Christians. A prophecy comes, a proclamation is made by a pastor, one that we all, we trust and we believe in. And you find that you begin to live your life to fulfill that prophecy. You begin to do everything in line with that prophecy. And as long as things begin to work out, you're happy because the prophecy is being revealed in your life. Many of us have lost our divine mandate. We have stopped fulfilling our divine mandate to fulfill a prophecy that's not ours. But the truth is, and the good news is, it doesn't matter. Soon as you realize that this is not what God is saying, soon as you go back to the commander and you ask those questions, you reroute. Rerouting is allowed. Rerouting has to be something that you and I learn to do every time. Every time we find that we are going off our divine mandate. So every time we realize that our current path does not align with God's divine mandate for us, we simply reroute. In that same account of David, chapter 6, from verse 3, we see how the ark of God was not properly handled. Now, this was not because they didn't have good intentions. Now, if you read that account, you realize that they actually had good intentions. They had awesome intentions. Now, between verse 3 to verse 12, a lot happened. We saw the death of Uzzah. Take time to please read this account. We saw how Obededom became a millionaire. This is in that space. And most importantly, we see David realizing that something isn't right here. Something isn't right here. How many times do you sit down, you do a personal audit, and say to yourself, something isn't right? You actually own it, and that something isn't fundamentally right. The reason why many of us don't do it really is because we don't know what the right is. I mean, if you're not sure what the mandate is, then every other mandate goes, right? But if you're clear with what your mandate is, you will be able to tell when things around you do not align. And David knew that something isn't right. And what did he do? He rerouted. He simply rerouted. You don't go around screaming and jumping from pillar to post, and you simply get the right information from the commander himself, and you reroute. And as you reroute, you realign, you come back to what the divine mandate is, and you keep going. So rerouting doesn't change the destination. It doesn't. It simply changes the approach to the destination. And that is something you and I must learn to embrace. Not spend all of our days, wallowing in guilt, and it's fine. But soon as you reroute and you realign and you start fulfilling your mandate on a day-to-day basis, you wake up every day asking yourself, am I still in line? Is what I'm doing aligning with what I suppose why I was created? The reason for my existence, is it fulfilling and answering my ultimate why? Ask yourself that question, and what is the answer? Sometimes you ask the question and you can see that you're many years, you've gone many miles, you've gone many years far from your divine mandate, and it seems like it's too difficult to retrace your step. It becomes like an arduous task that you're not sure if you can start that journey. You're not sure if you even want to. You're not sure. let me tell you, you cannot be the one that has gone further the most. You're not. But you are going further. And you have a solution. And that is what I'm sharing this afternoon. Just reroute. Go back to the commander himself. Get the right information and slowly reroute. And you will align back. And you find that fulfillment. You find that peace. We're not, like I said, we're all unique. We all have different mandates. So as long as you're fulfilling yours, it could be smaller if you look at it from man's eyes. It could be smaller. It could be bigger. It could be more tasking. It could be less tasking. That is not your problem. It's not. You're not the commander. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, the value will be felt. It's as simple as that. The third way of fulfilling divine mandate, that is from my perspective, is let me put it this way. Some years back, I went to see a ventriloquist, Jeff Dunham, somewhere in the east of some venue there, and he and himself and that skull that he plays with made a statement that became very popular. If you've seen it, I'm sure you recognize the statement: location, 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 location. Location is very important in fulfilling divine mandate. Where you are located is very important in the eyes of God. God needs to know where you are. You need to be ready to be located or relocated. You can read all of scriptures. Location was very important in what God did, had wanted to do, planned to do, just name it. Location, location, location. It is important that you investigate where you are located. I mean, as I speak to you, it might be where you call home, but is that place where you're supposed to fulfill your divine mandate? It's a very fundamental question. That a place is affordable, that a place seems secure, that a place is peaceful and offers you all the infrastructure that you need, does not mean that that is the place that you will fulfill your divine mandate. You just need to be ready for that conversation. That a place offers you virtually everything that you need does not mean that that is where you fulfill your divine mandate. Unfortunately, that has become how we as humans judge. We judge how we will fulfill our mandate based on the infrastructure that we have around us and how we accept our living conditions and all that. Now, a very interesting account is the book of Esther. The book of Esther, chapter 2, from 19 to 22. I'm sure it's a very popular scripture, and I really want us to read it. I think I have it opened here. There's a gentleman in that account known as Mordecai. Mordecai had a place where he was always located. He was always located at the king's gate. And at the king's gate, he heard of a conspiracy that was going to affect the life of the king, right? Now, he heard that because of where he was located. I want to tell you that there are secrets that are hidden in a particular location, and that secret is meant for you. The secret is meant for you. There are hidden in particular locations that you will never find until you get to that location. You get it, the secret is opened for you. Imagine what would have happened even to Mordecai himself if he was not at that location, even at the right time. Just imagine. Please read up that account. And further down in that same chapter 6, you find that when it was time to favor Mordecai, the king knew exactly where to find Mordecai. So it was all about location, where he was at the right time, where he was, what was happening there. If he wasn't there, I can only wonder, I can only imagine what would have happened. Is your location a place that you call home? But most importantly, are you fulfilling your divine mandate based on your location? I think it's something you and I need to really investigate. Sometimes your location is hindering you from fulfilling your divine mandate. Are you ready to have that conversation? Some of us have moved away from our divine location for whatever reason. Now you have, I mean, just look at this lived experience. Foreigners come to certain countries and they find fulfillment. They come to certain countries, they begin to fulfill their own divine mandate. Whereas the locals, the son of the soils, do not do not get that kind of fulfillment, regardless of how much privilege they have. But also remember that these foreigners come from a country, from a place where they also could not find fulfillment. But in those countries, other foreigners have found fulfillment. So, do you see how location plays a very critical role in us fulfilling our divine mandate? Location, location, location. Another very interesting account is that of Ruth. If you've read the book of Ruth, chapter 2, or I think all the way down, just read. It's a very interesting read, a very interesting account. Now, in that story of Ruth, you find that Ruth was also a foreigner I think it was in Bethlehem, if I'm not mistaken. She was from Moab and moved to Bethlehem. And in less than a year of Ruth finding herself in that city, Ruth found favor. What is interesting is Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, comes from that city. Ruth's mother-in-law had emigrated from that city because she couldn't find fulfillment in that same land, came back with Ruth, who couldn't find fulfillment in her own country, but found fulfillment in this country. Location, location, location. You also see that it wasn't just the fact that Ruth was in that country, but she was located at a particular place at a particular time. But it was more about her location. That's what caused Ruth to find fulfillment. Imagine if she wasn't located there. So the land immensely blessed Ruth. In Bethlehem, she found happiness. I believe she started her family. She reached financial maturity, but she just was blessed. So is your location hindering your fulfilling of your divine mandate? Are you willing to engage that conversation and ask if you are at the right place? Or because it's home and so that's where your fathers grew and and for that reason you have to be there? No. If your divine mandate is of priority to you, then fulfilling it is all that should count. And whatever it would take to fulfill it, whatever it would take to fulfill it is what should count. So location, location, location. Please investigate it. Now, this conversation and this topic is one that I have with myself every now and then. I have to revisit it. I have to revisit it. Every time when I skid off the Mac, it is what brings me back. It's as simple as that, really. I don't really have to, go through many rituals. I just need to go back to the commander and ask the fundamental questions. And then you do a personal audit. You will be able to tell if you're going off the Mac. You don't need anybody to tell you. But then I have prayers that I always pray regarding fulfilling my divine mandate. I'll just read some of them. I always pray that, oh Lord, when my time of blessing comes, let me be at the right location at the right time. That when my time of blessing comes, let me not have gallivanted and gone to a place that is better looking. Let me be at the right place at the right time. I also pray to God that regardless of how many mistakes that I've made, that let it not be too late for me to realize and start fulfilling my divine mandate. No matter how much mistakes I've made, no matter how far I've gone astray, let it not be too late for me to start fulfilling my divine mandate. I also pray that I will not be replaced. Now, I don't know what the commander will do But if you're not fulfilling it and the job has to be done, in most cases, people tend to replace. I always pray that as I battle and I journey this life to fulfill my mandate, that I will not be replaced. And I also pray that if in any way I am wrongly located, that Jehovah, by his grace and his mercy, will relocate me. I always pray that if I am in the wrong career, in the wrong business, if I'm in the wrong environment, for whatever reasons, whatever took me there in the first place, that Jehovah, by his grace and his mercy, should rightly locate me. Because fulfilling my divine mandate, you fulfilling your divine mandate, is all that really counts. That's it. Thank you.
You flow through me as a spring of water, welling up to eternal life. I have drunk and will never thirst